Yeah, elections may have come and gone, but it leaves in its tracks factors that really dominated in the process and also influenced voters' decisions, to participate or not to participate. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. And discussing this with me, I have in the studio a seasoned political analyst, Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for joining, Ibrahim.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, distinguished viewers.
Nigerians went out during the presidential National Assembly polls, and even before that, we could see the huge number of voters registration, and we could also see a huge number, poured out for the presidential National Assembly elections. But in this governorship and state assembly elections, there seemed to be a decline. And looking at what transpired between the first set of elections and the second set, can you put voice to some factors that shaped the voters' participation in these two sets of elections?
Thank you very much. There are two broad reasons why there was a lower level of participation in the governorship and House of Assembly election vis-a-vis the presidential and National Assembly elections. Historically, the gubernatorial and House of Assembly elections have always turned out lower averages in terms of voter population than in the presidential and National Assembly elections. That's an historical fact. In all the elections we have held, people have known. And that is, you can explain, it's explainable from a political science point of view by the fact that our people don't have a clear understanding of the importance of every of the elections. In Nigeria, we have 7 levels of elections. 5 of them are conducted during general elections period. You have the presidential, the senatorial, the House of Reps, gubernatorial, and House of Assembly. These are 5 very important elections. You have other 2, which are conducted by the state independent electoral commissions, chairmanship and councilorship elections. Now, of these 5 elections, one thing we notice is that our people tend to take as most important, most seriously, the presidential election. In fact, they don't even give equal importance to the election that runs with the presidential, the National Assembly and House of Reps elections. And then when it comes to the gubernatorial, for the real core politicians, they take it seriously. But you know that the total population of registered party members in Nigeria is less than 10% of the total population of the membership of the 18 political party. It's not up to 9 million. It's not up to 9 million registered members of political parties, card-carrying members of political parties. Yes. It's not up to 9 million. But if you look at our voter register, it's 93 million. If you look at Nigeria's population, over 200 million. But how many of those people are card-carrying members of political parties? Very few. So you see that it's only those few registered, committed party members, party men, that take the subnational election seriously. That's the first reason why people usually come out in lower numbers. And this is not only about 2023 election. You can go back to as far as 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019. The trend they have been consistent in that trend. The other thing is that a lot of people, particularly those who identify with Peter Obi, felt disappointed by the fact that he didn't win the election. Now, it was, you see, when you see the campaign towards, you were seeing, they call it different names, the obedience, the movement. They were not looking at the political party, Labour Party. They were not members. In fact, people even argue that Peter Obi is not a member of the Labour Party. It was not about the political platform. Unlike when you talk about PDP, you talk about the APC. It's almost like people are looking at the platform. APC did not do well. PDP, people are talking about the party. But when it comes to Obi and the Labour Party, people are looking at the individual, Peter Obi. So the moment he was not on the ballot, you are not going to see that level of turnout. Let me give you a very practical example. In the polling unit I voted for the presidential and National Assembly election, Peter Obi pulled 119. A total of 119 people voted for him in my polling unit, the place I voted. In the gubernatorial and House of Assembly election, at least in Edo, in that same polling unit, in the same state, the same ward, the same local government, the Labour Party pulled 19 votes. 119 voted for him. I have copies of this result I'm talking about now. And it's also uploaded on the INEC IREF. Result of the Zoom portal. I can give you, if you want, I can even give you the unit. But the point is that he got 119. The Labour Party scored 119 in presidential election. In the House of Assembly election, Labour Party, the same Labour Party, scored 19. So you are seeing that people don't take it important. But it's a very serious mistake they are making. Because, in political science, we say that there are three arms of, in government, we say there are three arms of government. The executive, legislature, and judiciary. In fact, we say that they are coordinate, they are equal, they are inter pares. But from a political science point of view, the legislature, or legislative arm of government, is primus inter pares. Yes, they are equal, but one comes first. That is the legislature. It's not the executive. The executive only implements the law that the legislature has made. The judiciary only interprets the law that the legislature has made. Even the appropriation, the budget, whatever the government is to spend, has to be approved. But the members of the executive council at the federal and state levels, they have to be screened. The judges too have to be screened by the National Assembly or the State Assembly, as the case may be. So people don't see, and when we are talking about bad governance, we are talking about the non-delivery of the public goods, of why government is not performing. People are always fixated on governors and presidents. But the failure is in the legislature. The failure is in the legislature. So when you garbage in, literally, when you vote in, without due respect, people who don't know what to do, because the legislature has three core functions. People don't even know what the legislature is about. For some people, it's retirement home. I've been governor for 8 years. What do I do now? Let me get to National Assembly and be a senator. Okay. That's what most governors do. 26 governors in this outgoing National Assembly, 9th Assembly, are former governors. 26 of them, and there are only 109. So you're saying that like a retirement home for some. But the legislature is important. It has three core functions. Number one is that it is the first function is about rule making. It is the one that makes the laws.
Okay. You spoke about the aspect of the people not really having much of the significance of other level of elections apart from that of the presidency. And that seemed to show or pop up in the elections that we just had. But again, there are other indices or factors that we could also look at. The attitude of politicians in terms of how they, some of them bring about violence using their political thugs. And of course, voter suppression and intimidation will be what we're going to be looking at after this timeout. To stay. It's This Morning on ITV, and while we had a break, we were opportunity to be joined by a civil rights activist, and he's no one else but Solomon Idiogbe. Thanks for joining, Solomon.
Very good morning this morning, and viewers at home, very good morning this morning.
Well, I still have with me a political analyst and the person of Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for sustaining the meeting with me.
Thanks for having me.
Let's look at your bite, Solomon Idiogbe. Now, we've had two sets of elections, and we saw the voters' participation in the first set, and of course, in the second set. Were you disappointed, or what could be your thoughts on how the voters panned out in both sets of election?
Disappointment is an understatement. But however, it was not unexpected. Philip, you recall that some time ago you and I had a section here where I foresaw what played. And then you said I was talking like a prophet of doom, that if I didn't believe in INEC. And I told you it's the same old story. You tried to emphasize, if you recall, the use of beavers, the magic that beavers will do, and I said SARS is a Nigerian manning it. It may be just a device to deceive us. And obviously that's what we saw. The same INEC who had earlier told us that beavers was the magic maker. And in the political dictionary of Nigeria, we have a major word referred to as game changer. And then they refer to it as a game changer. in these 2023 elections. Unfortunately, it actually changed the game, but negatively. We saw ballot box snatching that had been left behind since 2011 resurfacing in our polling units and our general elections. We saw killing and kidnapping resurfacing in the general elections. And these were things we had left behind. INEC, who told us, even in December or November precisely, that beavers, that the rumor making around then that INEC was not going to upload results from polling units using beavers was a fake news, quoting Mahood Yakubu. Unfortunately, the same man who said it was fake news actualized it to becoming a real news. He said it was one of the social media razzmatazz, but it became a mainstream media analysis.
Are you saying this affected the performance?
So much.
It influenced the voters' participation.
It's the close of the matter. It's the basic issue. You could see the reaction, the revolt, if you like, or the protests from Nigerians.
Before you came, Solomon Ibrahim Momo was saying that there's this impression that the voters have, which has been a trend in our historical discourse as far as elections in Nigeria is concerned. They seem to prioritize the presidential, and when it comes to other levels of elections like the governorship, state assemblies, they withdraw. Don't you think that again?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. What you saw in last Saturday's election was a protest by Nigerians as against one. Let me tell you what played in 2023.
Protest by Nigerians or protest by
Nigerians.
Some who had a
protest by Nigerian voters.
Party.
No, protest by Nigerian voters. Let me tell you,
I know they are Nigerian voters, but it could be some.
No. You are not getting it. You are far from the truth. That you are not seeing it. It means you are too close to the picture. Let me tell you this: the obedient movement, as it were, wasn't a Labour Party movement. No, it was an ideology cutting across the various political parties on the need to change the narrative in the Nigerian state, to change the narrative in the political system in Nigeria. They came at us, voting for Peter Obi of Labour Party, from PDP, APC, MPP, QPP alike. They were obedient movement members in the various political parties who felt, or in their wisdom thought, that voting for Peter Obi as presidential candidate of Labour Party could change the narrative of the political system in Nigeria.
As was featured in 2015?
In 2023, February 25th election.
I know. I say as it featured also in 2015.
In 2015, that
when
thinking that, yes, that was the first time, like an incumbent was being beaten by a third force. Now, unlike 2023 general election, the third force that brought in Buhari was a mega major of PDP, APC, AD, ACN, AD, PDP, NNPP, ABGA, fusing together to make a mega party. Unlike the 2023 presidential election, there was just a small party, but a movement of the people, an acceptance by the people of Nigeria to saying, let us give it a shot. The first time the Nigerian people was having a candidate from no place that you can even say has been a party. So, because until recently, outside Ondo State, Labour Party didn't have that kind of political strength. And that's why you could see politicians saying no structure. And some said they will soon run out of steam. And some said it was just a social media razzmatazz, that a negligible few individuals were gathered in the room making noise, and that it was It was nothing to talk about. But in the end, you saw the Nigerian people coming out en masse to vote for him. Now, what you saw on Saturday was a reaction, was a protest by Nigerians. Now, the usual, because I told you here, if you recall that day, that it is not going to be totally different from the usual. And they disappointed us. They disappointed Nigerians. So people find it difficult. For instance, in the polling unit where I voted, while I was leaving, I assisted 2 ladies out. They flagged me down and say, if I was going, I said, yes. And they entered. And when we were going, I said, I hope people have voted. They said, no, vote. We'll go see what they happen for you. I said, why? Say, the one we will first do. Wait, it not be the same way with the first. That guy who they won't give, they go see give her. So we'll just come see how people, see people not come out. And there are some polling units where nobody casted votes. And they said, our people there has nobody. And it really reflected. So we also anticipated the voters' apathy.
Okay.
But again, that's the Nigerian thing. According to my friend who said they are back carrying us, we also saw the very Nigerian syndrome where the usual became very usual. But one lesson from this general election is that Nigerian people have woken up. That the elections in Nigeria is not elections as usual. It's not business as usual.
Okay.
And that as we move on, people begin, because people are already asking questions. If you like it or not, Nigerians are not totally satisfied and are yet to be satisfied and are still willing to ask questions until the final verdict. Because as it stands now, it's just a first run of the first quarter. But painfully, it is only in Nigeria you can see the federal government will make laws. The same federal government will break the laws. And those who are supposed to be the people to uphold the laws will be the one breaking it. Like we saw on Saturday in Lagos State, where a traditional ruler said he was doing a local feast, a local festival, that only the locals are allowed to come out. That even women and non-indigenous are not allowed, which was a mercenary to win or rig elections. But however, we are watching. The world is watching.
Okay,
and like you asked, if I was disappointed, it was worse than disappointment.
Okay, let's take your reaction to that. He seemed to have brought a different tide to it, just like you were restricting it to just a certain movement that really wasn't really having a huge percentage in terms of the dominance, you know, in what transpired in the governorship and state assembly elections. What reaction do you have in what he just brought?
Well, my good friend Solomon is saying essentially that the members of the obedience movement are politically unsocialized. Because, you know, when you build campaigns around individuals, I agree, really, Nigeria, we don't actually have political parties, stricto sensu, in the real sense. Political parties ought to have ideology, ought to have members. You know, this is a member of this political party. So when we talk about across political parties, it shows lack of membership. When we talk about what does it stand for? It's not about an individual, it's about an ideology, what a group of people stands for. The question is, the mere fact that Peter Obi was not on the ticket, is that enough for people not to have come out? I mean, I don't want to agree with that. That's the reason why people should not come out. I think that they should have come out more. Because until if you want a change, you have to work or act on that change. You have to, it's important that not only do you have a president today or in the future in the mode of Peter Obi, you also need to have legislators in the mode of what he stands for. You also need to have governors in the mode so that they are practicing at the subnational level what they want to do for the country at the higher level. You know, so but when you now have members or supporters are across political parties, even though in Nigeria I don't even know whether those are actually political parties. Like my former lecturer would say, Bibla la Bibla. They are parties that are not parties. You know. So even though that's where I think it is, they are not really political parties. But we ought to have a people. That is even the challenge I see. That how are we sure that this thing will be like this in another 4 years? Because even the key person there, Peter Obi, was once in Abga as governor. 4 years ago, in fact, 2022, he was a presidential candidate, aspirant under the PDP. 4 years ago, he was the vice presidential running mate to Atiku Abubakar under the PDP. Today he's in Labour. The fear is that in another 4 years, maybe he will not be in YPP or ZLP. Or maybe he would have gone, because I actually believe that if Peter Obi was the candidate of the PDP, perhaps he would have won this election. Because even as much as they are playing down on structure, PDP had the structure to deliver Peter Obi. He could have, if he was on that. So maybe he could have, because I think the APC at the federal level, they messed up big time. So it was for the taking. The election was for the taking. But when you see a divided opposition, look at the results for the presidential election. Everywhere the PDP did very well. The Labour Party performed abysmally. PDP won Kano. PDP won Katsina. PDP won Adamawa. PDP won Osun. By hundreds of thousands of votes. I'm talking in all these places.
Could that be
no, I want to make a point. I want to make a point.
In the party as a setback?
No, I want to make a particular point. In those states where PDP did very well, go and check the votes of Labour. They were in the thousands, not hundreds, not 100,000.
Okay.
They were in the thousands, maybe 10,000.
Less than 100.
Yeah, so you show that there's an inverse relationship where PDP was doing well. Ditto for, who would imagine that in a presidential election, the PDP will get less than 50,000 votes in Lagos? It happened in this election. That's the same election that Labour Party won. Go to the southeast, traditional stronghold of the PDP. Labour Party swept it in the regions of between 92 and 97% across the 5 states, and Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Imo. The Labour Party swept it between 92 and 97% across all the 5 states. What was the vote of the PDP? That's the traditional stronghold of the PDP. So I think it's something that it's a very important thing. What happened this election with Peter Obi and the Labour Party was a game. What people like, it was not INEC, it was not BVAP, it was Peter Obi and the Labour Party that was the game changer in this election. I'm talking as a political scientist now, apolitical. If they can keep this momentum for 4 years.
All right, let's see how this bandwagon effect of the people that came out in the first set of elections, brought about a third force political party, a new political party, that brought some members elect, into the National Assembly. And that hasn't happened before for the party as compared to what we are having now. Now, you made mention of the fact that the voters' decision not to pour out en masse as they did in the presidential, could be as a result of the disappointment they had. But if you look at the numbers that came as a result of what they did in the first set of election to the National Assembly as members elect, shouldn't that be enough to at least encourage them to have come up for the second set?
No, the disappointment was much. We felt the pulse of the people. Election was even postponed by 1 week. People were totally disappointed, feeling disenfranchised. See, let me tell you, during the February 25th elections, I helped a lady, an old woman, over 90 years. She could barely walk. She trekked from her house to the polling unit. I was driving past.
Senior citizen?
Yes. When I saw people gathered, begging her. So I thought somebody had, insulted her or assaulted her or something was happening. So I parked. Only to me that they were appealing to her to go home. Mama said she was not going home. She would vote. Why? Because the polling unit where she usually go to cast votes, her names was among those removed from the O to another polling unit. And they said it was far off. She said she would trek. So I volunteered that I was going to take her there. I took her past 3 other polling units. They were trying to locate where her name was before finally got where she was. And then that was when I was asking her age. She couldn't barely say exactly her age, but she had an idea of what her age was. She was not 80, she was not 90, but she was not 100. And then Anna asked, Mama, who do you want to vote for? In our local language, I don't know. My son, I don't know. I said, Mama, you left home. Are you being... You wanted to cast your vote, yet you don't know who you want to vote for. He said, hey, I don't know. But that man that has 3 children, that's the one I want to vote for. So, and, you know, I was shocked, like, the man that has to said yes. And when we got there, at the polling unit finally, the people they identified her. You are as a member of a certain political party. Let me not start mentioning it. Yeah. And you know, they welcome her. She pitched to me and said that she didn't mind them. Take me to go and vote. You know, it's like she had her trust now. Okay. So I was opportune or privileged to know what she voted. She asked me, put my finger in that.
In the setting.
In that political party. She casted votes across, you know, the reps.
That brought about the bandwagon effect.
No, that I'm coming. And at the point while I was coming earlier, I had also assisted a husband and a wife who had trekked all the way from Oka, Saple Road, down to Satana Market before I met them, saying they left home very early. Why? They said they couldn't get transport and they were trekking. And I assisted them. They were going to First Circular where they had their polling units. And I asked the same question. This was about the first time they were voting in their lives and they wanted to cast their votes. You understand? And that was encouraging. That, oh, both of you, first time you are voting in your lives? First time we are voting in our lives. And we want to vote for Peter Obi. Now, how do you feel those persons will feel the last Saturday? They will still trek from Oka, or the old woman will still walk with a walking stick? Because the mindset is that, now who they say they want to give, now they go give. Because the perception, Philip, whether you like it or not, the perception of the Nigerian people is that the announcement of INEC does not represent the true reflection.
Let's look at.
That's the perception.
Yes. I'll come
back. Does not
I'll come
reflect
back to you.
The true will of the Nigerian people, and that, as in its own, had brought down the zeal.
Okay, let's look at the influence of other issues. Like we are looking at reports in the course of the election. We are even in the east, where coalitions were going on in Rivers State, and the political agents of parties, you know, had a disagreement, and that led to some pandemonium. In the course of it, we had gunshots, you know, and the professors that were the coalition officers in that unit, you know, they fled the hall, leaving this camper to safety, leaving the hall empty. Now, we've had pockets of violence in such places where, you know, brought about some kind of impression to the voters that they seem not to be safe in the polls, that they thought that, oh, this time around it will be a different ball game. You know, we had promises even from the IGP, the deployment of security agents, you know, to make sure that they tackle this issue of violence headlong. But it seemed not to have been as they expected. Don't you think all of this also contributed?
Well, two things. One is that is after effect. The violence did not start before the election. The violence started and continued during and after the election. That is, so people who want to come out would have come out. In fact, they would have witnessed.
But I feel that he's talking about the previous elections, not the Saturday's election.
No, even the Saturday election, that's where the East constituency, that's where
the violence was worse in this election
than the first one. Yes.
So it is after the effect
okay.
that the violence you saw was during and after the elections, not before, in these gubernatorial or assembly elections. That's one. Secondly, is that it appears that we blame INEC for the failure of the political class, of the politicians and their supporters. Because it is not INEC's duty. It's not INEC that perpetrates those violence. You mentioned the Auda, for example. It happened in Benin. Rivers is far. There were cases in Benin. There were cases in Lagos.
There were deaths.
You know. So that violence was perpetrated by politicians and their supporters, not INEC.
Some politicians.
Yes, of course, among the political class, some politicians and their supporters. You look at Nigeria, if you look at this Fourth Republic, in 1999 and 2003, where I voted in New Benin, in the primary school in New Benin, where I voted, in those two elections, in the 2003 elections, it was the same story. There was violence. When we gathered to vote, when we were voting, some people would come, shoot into the air, people would scatter for safety. the criminals, I call them criminals, who want to rig the election, they will come, they will stop ballot papers, they will insist that INEC officials, ad hoc staff, announce those results, and the result will stand. In 2007, when they started introducing the PVC, the card reader, and other innovations by former INEC chairman Atai Rujiga, we saw a reduction in violent activities. Yeah. But a new challenge emerged, and that was vote buying. In fact, they came to a head in 2015, where they were bringing Ghana must go bags of money. That was the first time in openly votes have been bought. It continued in 2019. So, as we're moving away from one challenge, we are getting to another one. It was now, when it was no more fashionable to cause violence, because when there was violence, elections would be cancelled. In fact, there was a man, Abaka Odu. It was because of violence in several polling units across several racks that elections were cancelled in some. That's why he was not declared governor before he died.
Okay.
He was there. I thought there was to conduct continue the election in those places, rerun. On those places, you had violence the following day, but he didn't see the following day.
And this violence seems to be taking place where some of these politicians see that the strongholds of their opposition, you know, are there. That's where they cause this violence.
No, look at what's happening now.
How is the Electoral Act helping? Because
look at what is even happening now. The violence you are seeing now is that candidates and politicians are going to their opponent's stronghold because the rule now is that
because the Electoral Act that says that
the Electoral Act says that you cancel the election.
You cancel the election. So when that becomes a setback.
Yes, where you now have your opponent's stronghold, what you now do is to go there and cause violence. That's what they are doing. This current violence you are seeing in this election, presidential, National Assembly, and then gubernatorial assembly. What they are not doing is that in areas the stronghold of their opponents, they go there and they scatter because they know that they are going to annul the election that was conducted.
So they lose anyway.
So if we have this kind, you know, in our political space, will it encourage voters?
That's why
going forward?
I'm blaming the political class, the politicians and their supporters, not INEC. It's not INEC that represents value. And you know, even the electoral guidelines does not allow security forces to hold ammunition in the polling units. They are going to be there, but unarmed. They only call for backup if matters escalate. But before backup will come, of course, those who want to do evil have already done the evil.
But for me, I think that even security agencies are not doing that much they should do. You know why? Now, one would expect that when you say security agents who will be at the polling units are not allowed to be armed for safety, so that there will not be accidental discharge and all those accidental killings as well. But one would have expected that for every polling agent, every polling unit, security agent,
because there'll be a squad at least.
Yeah,
tactical squad
at
a logistical direction
that is able to answer to at least 3-4 polling units at a point.
Yes.
Beyond that, each of the agents in the polling, at least because we have police, civil defense, SSS, immigration,
NSCDC,
NSCDC, customs, all of them, they are usually there. Immigration, and then one would have expected that of the 5 or 6 different agencies that are there, not less than 3 should have a walking talkie.
Yes.
So that you can immediately give CTREPs, situation reports.
You know, a whole lot of us are not trained, you know, as security agents. So you still have the floor. A whole lot of us are not trained as security agents. And we can at least be able to, bring out, ways to solve this problem about insecurity. But what baffles Nigerians, again, majority of Nigerians, is that those who are saddled with the responsibility of tackling insecurity or issues like this seem to, amaze us.
Yeah, but let me tell you that that's part of the major problem, that when you do not equip the security agencies to do their work, it's also a failure. So much money is voted for security agencies during elections as much as for INEC. Now, you can't just expect the security agents to go to the polling unit and expect the person to use his phone or her phone to call who?
Okay, but apart from that, those who are in charge of security, you know, in terms of the big men in that sector, are they not aware that such places should have like a logistical area where you have a squad, you know, that will be able to intercept such issues?
Are you talking about the security agents or the political class?
The security agents knows who deployed
let me
them.
shock you.
Like the Inspector General of Police, for instance.
Let me shock you.
Like the commissioners of police, for instance.
Let me shock you.
That are being deployed in such areas.
Let me shock you.
What are they thinking about?
Let me shock you.
What are they doing in that direction?
Do you know that it was Friday evening that police officers who went on election duty for the presidential election got the first tranche of alert for the election duty they went 2 Saturdays ago? And as we speak, they are yet to get alert for this last Saturday election. Maybe you are not also aware, Philip.
Do you see that as a setback?
Of course. Are you also aware, Philip? Maybe you are not aware that police officers are owed 6 months area salary, but they are not allowed to go on strike. So where's the morale? Because these are confidential issues. They are not allowed to speak out. When you speak out, the Inspector General of Police team will come clamp on you and you are dismissed. In fact, it will start from your CP. Now again.
What about the undue influence of the incumbency? Of state governments in their domains that could also bring about this, because we sometimes want to wonder why you know, security agents are not acting the way they should. Even when you see at the glare that this set of people, you know, are causing mayhem, they seem not to take actions as they should.
Philip, if not for the fact that chief executives, if you like, chief executives of states, the ones who refer to as governors and as though chief security officers of the states, are not clean persons, in quotes, and that they will misuse the apparatus of the states, the best approach to every election is to use the locals, the one you refer to as local vigilantes.
But they are not enlisted.
No, I said if not. Because they've proven to be more efficient or more effective in tackling crimes.
Insecurity,
yes, and insecurity. Now, like as I was saying, if you ask a police officer to go to polling booths, he doesn't even have enough money. They don't even have, they are expected to transport themselves to their locations. Then you now expect the police officer now to bring his money and start making calls. Each of these polling units are supposed to be catered for. They are supposed to be electronic gadgets, at least 2, 3, 4 walkie-talkies cutting across to communicate to the next point. Just like in developed claims, police is a minute or max 2 minutes away from you for every crime.
Okay, but are you saying that they are not aware of all of this?
They are, but how can they tackle it? Are you not aware of the video making the rounds now, where Rotimi Amechi was quoting that Yakub Mahmood is an agent of government being appointed by the Tinubu's camp in APC, that they nominated
yes,
him.
But
I'm going somewhere.
But we don't need to peddle that here.
No, I'm saying I'm going somewhere.
We don't have the right guests to tackle that, because when you say that issues will pop up.
No, I'm not trying to escalate. I'm not trying to escalate. I'm only trying to make a point. Okay. And he went further to talk about a relationship between Yakub Mahmood and Nyesom Wike in Rivers State. Now that goes to show that we are in an animal farms. The agents of states have said times with that number that we have in Nigeria institutions that are so weak, so much so that individuals are stronger than institutions. And that is why, and that's what accounts for this, because the police, the SSS, and the INEC cannot tell me that they are not aware that the policeman who is supposed to, because they are the lead agency, who are supposed to man the polling units that are not armed and that are not even allowed to take as much as a baton to any polling unit, should not be given a gadget to at least communicate or record incidences of that, because the the safest or the most sincere that you can take, for instance, in a polling unit, reporting issues of violence, is the police or the security agents.
Okay.
They are the ones now who can, because if you record, for example, issues of violence, you are most likely to be attacked by mobs from the other side, or thugs, or hoodlums from the other side.
The one perpetrating the violence.
Perpetrating the violence. But if a security officer, just in their uniforms, maybe hanging a body cam, can record it,
okay,
or having a camera,
okay,
can record it, and then it's not likely to be harmed. You understand? But they don't make provisions for this. So it goes to show that when, in any case, our electoral laws have been amended and is improving on a daily basis. Maybe as we get on, before the next 2027 general elections,
okay,
perhaps this will be part of the electoral laws and the amendment that we'll see.
Among all we've said, because there are a lot of factors that we could also discuss about, interface with. But along what you just said, how do we tackle this going forward? Do we have the aspect of the undue influence of the state apparatus that also, seem to influence these elections, to a point where voters seem to be discouraged, from coming out? How do we tackle that? And the security, at the level of security agents, for instance, that he also brought up, even remuneration, not coming as such when due. How do we tackle this? Should we continue to go in this direction and fashion? And some are also having this argument that it could take a long time for the ordinary Nigerian to come out in the next poll, looking at what we are being characterized with in our elections. What do we do going forward, Ibrahim?
Well, as a matter of fact, the first mistake anybody can make is to abstain from voting or refuse what they have called voter apathy, staying away from the electioneering process. That's the greatest mistake anybody can make. So I do not accept, rationalize, or support that kind of explanation that people have given, that this is the reason why. There's no excuse, no viable, because you cannot complain about a system for 4 years. And the only period you have some time to do something about it is the time you now decide to stay at home.
Okay, but the electorate needs to trust the process.
You see,
they need to see that it's transparent enough
let me tell you,
for their votes to count.
Let me tell you, there are no.
How do we tackle that in that regard? Because it's not just saying that they shouldn't, but how do we bring more sanity, more transparency, even at the level of the electoral umpire? How do we bring this?
Let's make this point. Let's make it out there straightforward.
It will bring about encouragement.
There are no
for the
perfect elections anywhere in the world.
Okay.
That's the first thing. There are no perfect. In fact, there's an election that took place on November 8th in the U.S., the state of Georgia. The election was concluded in January. From November, in one of the senatorial seats in Georgia, it was concluded in January. It took, if you do an election for 1 week. That's
polity.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you do an election, Raphael Warnock was the man who won the election eventually. Reverend Raphael Warnock, that was the one who won the election in one of the senatorial seats in Georgia. It was in January that the election was concluded, January 5th. So that took place November 8th. So there are no perfect elections anywhere in the world. And then we must also realize that bad people, they don't even need you to vote. They actually need you to abstain so that they can read the election.
So they have headroom.
So we really don't have any excuse. Actually, that's the first, because in the political process, there are different categories of stakeholders. You have the electoral umpire, the election management body, INEC, like Nigeria, or HCX, or the CX. You have the observers, you have the political parties, you have the politicians, you have the electorates. The critical stakeholder, the one who matters, in all on whom everything is built upon, is the electorate.
Of course, yes.
If there's an election held and the electorate don't come out, even if you have the police, the security forces, you have the electoral umpire, you have the observers, you have the political parties, you have the politicians, if the electorate don't come out, you won't get election. There will be no election at all. If everybody decides that I'm not coming out, there's no election. So people don't even know how important they are.
But the party members will come out.
That is what I'm saying. In
that brings about the issue where, it won't reflect the people's choice.
Yeah, so each time you stay away from voting, you're only enabling rigging. Not just rigging, your opponent, the one you feel is not good enough to rule. You're only enabling, because if you had come out, you will vote for the one you thought would do best. But when you don't come out, that one will not win, obviously. Look at the presidential election and the House Assembly election. In Edo, Labour Party won by a mile in the presidential election. By a mile. In the House of Assembly election, how many seats have they won? 24 seats. How many have they won? People who won a party that won by a distance in the presidential election, how many seats have they won in the House of Assembly? That's the effect of the voter party.
Yes.
And then, if we have to look at it really critically, every party won in their stronghold during the presidential election. Atiku from the north won the north.
Tinubu from the southwest won the
Tinubu
southwest.
from the southwest won the southwest.
Which brought some fairness.
Yes, Obi from the southeast. In fact, it's margin. That's the word. It's not. It didn't win.
He swept.
It's where the southeast.
So there's an appreciable.
Everybody
are you saying by this there's an appreciable fairness and credibility?
I started by saying that there are no perfect elections anywhere in the world, and I give an example of the US.
But some places are more perfect than.
It's a
some places are near perfection than others.
You see, we know the mistake we make in Nigeria. We always think that the grass is greener abroad. Yes, level of development is higher in the West than you have in Africa, Nigeria inclusive. That's a given.
Okay.
But when it comes to politicking and politics, there are no perfect. In fact, there's no perfect system anywhere in the world. Look at, for example, in the US. I've given an example of the US. Let me go to Germany. In Germany, Angela Merkel. In Britain, what's her name? Tony Blair, and of course Margaret Thatcher. They ruled for 16 years old, and 15, 16, and 18 years. Between 15 and 18 years. That way they ruled.
Okay.
In Nigeria, if you even attempted a 9th year, he knows what it is. So when it comes to term limits, Nigeria is better than the UK.
Okay, but apart from the electorate, we are also looking at other factors, that could also help to encourage more voters, like the electoral process, the electoral umpire, INEC. What's your urge in that direction?
Let me just add before you come to that. The guardian of the process is the electorate, not the rules, not the umpire. The umpire, people are complaining about INEC now. The guardian of the process is not the electorate. It's not the laws. It's not the electoral law. It's not even the electoral umpire. I have given an example that the majority people won in their strongholds. In fact, the key one was that Peter Obi won in Lagos.
Okay, but can't we have a process where I'll come back to you. Let's join Solomon Ndiogbe. Can't we have a process where voters can just vote from the comfort of their homes? Shouldn't we be going there?
Yeah, I think we're supposed to be moving towards that direction, except for the setback and the deceits we saw in the last presidential elections. Because if you recall, like he had analyzed earlier, we started by manual voting. If you remember, option A4. Yeah. Anybody where you want to vote for, stand for him back. I raise up my hand.
That's my picture, yeah.
So we move from there to normal vote casting, temporary voters card, permanent voters card, normal thumb printing, ballot box stuffing, ballot box snatching, ballot box destruction, which has resurfaced now, though.
Oh, of course.
And then we grew from there into social media campaigns that reduce ballot box snatching and all that. And then while we're planning to look forward, vote buying came in. And then it goes to show, because at then there was no vote buying before the card reader thing and all that, because they could steal the ballot box and stuff it. Now that they can't do that, they started buying your votes, because at the point they started using palm kernel to thumb print. When it was no longer counting, they needed to now buy the votes so that they can have a real thumb print. Now when that now failed, they resorted to hacking and all that, still not working. And then this beavers came. That's supposed to be the game changer. Then now that has failed. Remember, it failed. It's failed.
No, you can't say it failed.
No, I have a right to my opinion.
You have a right to your opinion.
I'm coming. I'll still doing analysis.
But I have a challenge when you say failed.
Let me tell you.
Reports have it, statistics have it that it worked appreciably.
No! What was the essence of beavers?
So what's your basis of saying it?
Yes! Basis of saying it. The first thing. Why? Because there was something totally different from it, if not to upload results from polling units. So you can read real time.
So that's IREV now you're talking about now.
No. IREV is is predicated on the upload of beavers. Because the results cannot be uploaded from your phone.
It depends if the device is if it was made to function like that.
Yes, it was. Because at the end, they could upload House of Reps and Senate. They couldn't upload presidential results. So it's arranged to be like that. And if you look at it, if those results came and they were uploaded, because that's why it's supposed to be the game changer. One, the issue of from ECN, from 23 to 27 was no longer there.
Incident forms.
Incident forms. Then, if you just come, if the thumbprint isn't working, the facial recognition, which was biometrics,
the facial captures,
will now also reveal that, oh, this is the right person, and then that's the work. Then the second work you're supposed to do is to first give accurate numbers, because if you recorded only 200 persons as accredited.
Okay, to help you out, are you saying that if you say it failed, that means you're saying it failed completely?
No, because it failed. It's not because I didn't say, I have not said completely.
Okay.
You understand? Because it worked in some and it didn't work. Because it's human factor. They didn't want it to work. So having known how this worked now, how it failed now, I'm sure by the next election would have done amendments. Okay. What brought us here was the issue of can't voters just sit down in their comfort zone and cast votes. I was only trying to tell you that in no distant time, I see a Nigerian state going to, because we're even talking about diaspora voting.
Okay, your closing remarks.
Yes, I'm sure the diaspora voting will come in. If diaspora voting comes in, it means you can vote from your convenient places. My parting word is that INEC should realize that their actions has an effect on the Nigerian state, and it has an effect on the people of Nigeria. And that Nigerian politicians should also realize that they're dealing with human beings, and that it cannot continue.
All right.
Otherwise, we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder.
Okay, your closing remarks in this.
And two things quickly. One is that to whom much is given, much expected. Nigerians put much trust on INEC. Nigeria funded INEC in the region of 400 billion naira, or $661 million. Nigeria allowed INEC a free rein to implement all the technologies he wanted to impute. If we give to whom much is given, much is expected. And finally, is the fact that our people must realize that the success or failure of our electoral system and of our body politic is up to the electorate. We must not stay away when it is time to make a difference. Complaining for 4 years is okay, but making a difference or coming out to vote is the key thing.
Thank you for your articulation on this, Solomon Idiogbe and of course Ibrahim Momo. Well, there's much we can take on this. We will continue to interrogate the process, the election that we just had, assessing it in order to deepen the electoral process. Don't forget, tomorrow is another day for This Morning on ITV. But after this time out, we're going to be having Business Rendezvous with Dennis Offik. Happy viewing. My name is Philip Omo Gyupo. Goodbye.